At 9 a.m., millions of people log in. Same desk, same inbox, same salary. And yet, quietly, the promise behind that routine is fading. Not because people stopped working hard, but because the system that made 9-to-5 salaries reliable is slowly dissolving, and most people won't notice until it's already gone. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The traditional salary was never guaranteed by effort. It was guaranteed by structure. Factories, offices, hierarchies, predictable demand. That structure is weakening, and once it does, the paycheck becomes something very different. Think about how the 9-to-5 actually started. It wasn't designed for fulfillment. It was designed for control and predictability. One worker, one role, one wage, repeated every month. In exchange, you traded time for certainty. That trade worked for decades because companies needed stable human input to function. They needed people present. That dependency is disappearing. Now let's bring this into a familiar, modern scene. You're in the US or Europe. You earn a salary. Maybe $70,000 a year. Maybe 55,000 euros after tax. That becomes roughly $4,000 a month. Your life organizes itself around that number. Rent or mortgage? Transportation, subscriptions, insurance, food. Every expense assumes one thing. The paycheck continues. Not increases, just continues. That assumption used to be reasonable. Today, it's fragile. Here's why this topic matters right now. Companies no longer design work around people. They design people around systems. Software doesn't need sleep. Automation doesn't negotiate raises. AI doesn't quit. So instead of asking, how do we pay employees long-term? Businesses ask, how do we reduce fixed costs? Salaries are fixed costs. That alone changes everything. Let's walk through how the system actually works today. A company hires you not because you ari idi pre sabru, but because at this moment you're cheaper than automation. That's the calculation. Not malicious. Not personal. Pure math. As technology improves, that calculation updates. Slowly at first. Then all at once. This is where the salary model quietly breaks. Salaries assume stable output over time. But modern productivity is non-linear. One good system can replace 10 average workers. One automated workflow can erase entire departments. So instead of paying 10 salaries for 10 years, companies invest once. From their perspective, it's rational. From yours, it's Now let's talk about the uncomfortable math no one likes to say out loud. If your income is capped, but your costs are flexible, your financial safety depends on growth you don't control. Most salaries grow 2 to 4% annually. Housing, healthcare, and education often grow faster. That gap compounds, not dramatically, quietly, until suddenly, the salary that once felt good feels tight, and then fragile. Here's the subtle incentive problem. Companies are rewarded for efficiency. Workers are rewarded for consistency. Those incentives no longer align. A salary encourages predictability. Modern markets reward adaptability. So, firms move toward contracts, projects, performance-based pay, variable hours, not because they hate employees, but because flexibility protects margins. Public conversation frames this as freedom. Work whenever you want. Be your own boss. Flexible income. That's the hype. The reality is less poetic. Variable income shifts risk downward. The company keeps stability. The worker absorbs volatility. There's a quiet irony here. The 9-to-5 wasn't just about work. It was about risk pooling. You accepted lower upside in exchange for protection. As that protection erodes, the downside remains. but the upside doesn't appear automatically. So people end up with the worst combination. Salary level upside with freelance level risk. Now zoom out. This isn't happening overnight. It's happening role by role. Marketing, design, support, analysis, even parts of engineering. Each job doesn't disappear. It fragments. Hours become variable. Teams shrink. Expectations increase. The paycheck stays until it doesn't. This creates a strange psychological trap. People feel employed, but not secure. Busy, but replaceable. Paid, but behind. So they cling harder to the idea of a stable salary, even as the system quietly moves on. The long-term implications are bigger than careers. When income becomes unstable, people delay decisions. Buying homes, having children, starting businesses. The economy slows, not because people lack ambition, but because uncertainty freezes planning. Governments notice this too. Tax systems are built around predictable wages. Social safety nets assume stable employment. As salaries fragment, those systems strain, not catastrophically, gradually, which makes it harder to respond. So what replaces the not universal freelancing, but a hybrid world? Some people remain salaried, but fewer than before. Others earn through layered income, projects, ownership, performance. Not because it's trendy, but because it distributes risk differently. Here's the key distinction. The end of 9-to-5 salaries doesn't mean the end of work. It means the end of guaranteed predictability for average workers. And predictability was the real benefit. This brings us to the quietest part of the shift. Financial intelligence is changing. It's moving away from questions like, how do I get paid more? Toward questions like, how exposed am I to one income structure? That's not hustle culture. That's risk awareness. None of this is about panic. It's about clarity. The salary system worked beautifully for a specific era. Mass production! Stable growth. Limited automation. We don't live in that era anymore. We're still using its assumptions. So here's the unresolved question. If the salary was never about freedom, only about stability, what replaces it when stability is no longer guaranteed? That answer hasn't fully formed yet, and how each person responds to that uncertainty may quietly define the next generation of financial outcomes.